So welcome back to another video. So in this video we are going to discuss about the what do we say local policies. Now it's a same topology in the local policy. The only difference is that in the local policy means it will be only affected to this particular branch only. So mainly this will be used for the quality of service, or if you are running the BGP or the OSP of routing protocols in order to manipulate the paths or the routes, you mostly use the local policy. So I will be creating the quality of service policy because that's the main usage of the local policy. Since we are doing only one lab, so I will go ahead with the quality of service. Now, quality of the service, you need to understand certain things before we go ahead and create a policy. So first thing is that for the create a quality of service policy, first thing is that we are going to match the traffic first. So basically we are matching the flow which traffic you want to match. Second is that you are going to define the queues. Third one is that you are going to define the class maps. And fourth one is that we are now building up a quality of service policy. And fifth one is that we are applying this policy on the interface. So let's discuss one by one. So matching traffic means we can say that we can write an access control list for the local policy and we can match the traffic. For example, we can say that if it is any voice traffic being detected, we want to match it. So we create an access list saying that I want to match it. So mostly for the video and audio, the DSCP header will be packet will be like 40 and 46. So we will utilize that one. And we will create one prefix for this one, that is VPN 30 server, that is 10.30.101.10/32. We will create a data prefix for this one and we will define this one as a critical server. So now once we have the traffic matching, the next step is to build up the queue. So there are inbuilt queues. You don't have to worry about creating the queues. So that will be starting from 0 to 7. So there are total 8 queues inbuilt for you. 0 means that is the highest priority and it will allocate all the resources. That is 100% resources to it. Whenever there is a congestion and there is a like your bandwidth is oversubscribed, then it will make sure that whoever is the 0 defined under the 0 queue, they will be given the preference. Similarly, you do have 1, 2, and 3, and accordingly to their queues, they have different roles over there defined for you. And lastly, the 7 means that is the best effort. So once you create the traffic which is matching, then you will assign that traffic to the queues. So you cannot directly assign it, but you have to use a class map. So combining these two, we are defining them in the class map. And finally, in the quality of service policy, we are calling all the parts, different parts into one policy. And once the policy is ready, we will assign it to the device. And this policy name should be called into the interface. It's a little bit tricky, but once you understand how the process flow is, it will automatically be easy for you. Okay, so let's see one by one. So first thing is that I am going to create an access list. So before I create the access list, I will create a data prefix, that is 10.30.101.10/32. Let's go to the configuration policies, custom policies. Under the local policy, we will go to the list. Under the list, I will go to the data prefix. So click on data prefix. I will say that this one is a critical server and the prefix will be 10.30.101.10/32. Alright, so that's done. The prefix is ready. Now let's go ahead and match the traffic. So let's go to the custom policies. So we will create access control list and here we will say access control IPv4 list. So by default we are dropping, we should not be dropping anything. Remember for the data. Sequence. So first we have to match the DSCP, that is number 40, and we will say that action accept, and here you do have an option for the class, and you see that we don't have any class. Okay, so let's create the class first. Let's go back to the list, and here you do have a class map. So the queues are already been defined by default. Now we are creating the class map. So click on new class map, and here you will say that this one will be voice and video, and that will be assigned to Q0. Next will be critical server, that will be assigned to number 1, and the rest of the traffic should be so default should be accept, and rest of others should be assigned to queue number 7. So we will assign it later on. How we can assign? Or I can say that this one will be best effort. Okay, I will create the best effort one. That will be number 7. So I've created 3 class map. One is defining voice and video to Q0, critical server to 1, and best effort to 0. So 3 components are created. So queues are created, class map is created, and now we are defining the access list, matching the traffic. So let's go to the access control list. Now create the IPv4 list. By default, it should be accept, sequence, add a role. We are mapping the DSCP maybe 40, and we are accepting. The class map should be voice video. Okay, click on save. There is one more, that one DSCP, that is 46. I think this one will be used for video. Uh, and I will assign the same class map, that is audio video, because I'm not able to go ahead with 2 of them. You see that it's only saying that single values. So both of them are created for audio video. So next one will be our source destination data prefix. If someone is going to our critical server, we want to accept, and the class map should be critical server. Alright, so by default, it's already been enabled accept. So that's all we are doing. But again, you see that we are not defining anything as a best effort right now, so we don't worry about it. So we will say that this one as a QoS local policy, and save. So we created the match the traffic, whatever the traffic should be matched. We already have the queues in place. We already have the class map. Now it's time to create the quality of service. So click on custom, and over here you see that forward class and quality of service. Over here you have a quality of service. Click on add, create a new, and this is where you see that by default there is 0. So we already matched the traffic to the Q0 indirectly. Okay, so what we did was in the access list, we said that the video and audio should be mapped to the class map, or it's not 40 and 46 DSCP should be mapped to class map, audio and video, and this class map is being assigned to queue number 0. So that's already there. So anything assigned to Q0, that will be 100% bandwidth, 100% buffer, everything will be given to that one. Okay, they will be make sure that it's available for them. But now let's add the new queue, that should be queue number 1. How much should be the bandwidth allocated to that? So I can go with the maybe 20%, and the buffer should be 5. That should be fine. And you see that by the scheduling, it's automatically taking weighted round robin. That's a default. And the drop off, if you want to drop the traffic using the tail drop, and you see that once I selected number 1, it automatically detected that critical servers are assigned to this queue. Click on save queue. Next, I will add one more queue, that should be number 7. If you remember that we have assigned a best efforts. So best efforts, we are assigning almost 50% for that one. and the buffer will be little bit more because that's best effort, so 25%, and dropout will be tail dropout, and you see that by default it is best effort. Click on. So three different queues we created and we are calling our. So first, let's go ahead and recap one more time. So first we went to the list and we created a class map. So in this class map, we have defined our critical server and assigned it to queue number 1, and to the audio and video we have assigned to 0, and for the best effort we have assigned it to number 7. So these are the three things we created. Next, queues are already inbuilt. We did nothing for that one. Number 3, we have created the matched traffic, that is using the ACL. So in the ACL we said that any traffic going to 4046 we want to match the queue to audio and video, and destination prefix 10.30.101.10/32. If there is anyone going to this destination, it should be mapped to critical server, that is 1, and any other should be matched to, that is default, so we are not doing anything. But in the ACL itself, by default we have assigned the class list, that is best effort, that is number 7. But in here we did not reserve any bandwidth for them. So bandwidth has been reserved in the quality of service policy forwarding of this one. So in here we said that if it is 0 should be 30% bandwidth and 70% of buffering. If it is a best effort, because most of the traffic will go via the best efforts, and for the audio and video we don't require much of the bandwidth usually, so 30% should be more than enough. 50% I have allocated to best effort because that's where a lot of traffic going in, but the priority will be reserved for the 30%, whatever it will be. Now 20% for the critical servers, which are our destination server in the data center. So this is where we have defined those parameters, how much of the bandwidth you want to allocate to different types of traffic. Okay. So once that has been defined, our policy is ready. Okay. So we will name this one as the quality of service policy and save. So all pieces are in place. Now let's go to the localized policy. Click on add policy. You see that by default we have already created everything. So click on next. So here you see that configuring forward classes and quality of service. We will say that import existing because we already created it. And we click on next, control access list. We already created that access list to match the traffic for the quality of service. Click on that one. And configure route policy, that's not required for now. Policy we will give a name as a local policy. And over here policy settings, I don't want to go with net flow application, don't worry about these things, just click on save. Now this the policy has been now ready, so next is that I am going to attach it to the devices now. So I will go to the configuration, templates, branches, edit, go to the additional templates, go to the policy, and here you should see local policy. Click on update, next, configure, and OK. So once that has been pushed, we should see in the CLI that policy. So the command will be show policy uh, quality of service scheduler info. So that is been pushed now. So if I say quality of service, you see that all the queues which we reserve the bandwidth, all the details are over here. And also if I say show policy quality of service map info, you see that we created one quality of service map, class maps. And if I say that show policy access list names, We created one access list, that is a quality of service local ACL policy. And main thing is that we need to confirm whether that is being assigned to the interface or not. So if I go back to the same thing, if I say show policy access list association, so it says that there is an access list, but it is not been assigned to any interface. So it's not been assigned to any interface. That's where we have to assign now. So the device got the policy, but it doesn't know on which interface it has to implement. So we have to tell it. So let's go back to our configuration templates, feature templates. That should be to the interface gig0/0, which is connected to the business internet. Click on edit, and within that interface we have an option called as a ACL and quality of service. And over here you will add the quality of service. And now if you, I don't, let me get the quality of service map. So if I go back here, go to the forward quality, so make sure that you copy the correct name, come back on the interface, enter that name, and we don't have any ACL, that should be all good. Click on update. So now that should push to do all the three devices now, branches and the data center, but my data center does not have that policy attached, so it should drop that configuration. So click on next, configure, select all three. Okay. So data center is been not attached with the local policy. So it will reject that configuration because it will say that I don't see that parameters quality of service policy, whatever it is been created. So I cannot reference it. So it is not able to reference on that interface. Okay. You see that it's been pushed. This has been rejected. Now if I come back to my data center, before we were not seeing any interfaces, but we should be seeing the interface because that is been referenced now, so it should show up the interface. So sometimes it doesn't show up. Again, I said it might be the what do we say, uh, evng issue. Otherwise, what I will say that I have assigned this name, so I will assign the policy name instead of what I might be doing wrong. Let's go ahead and see if I am doing anything wrong. Feature template gig 0/0. It should show that interface once that is being referenced. Let me see configuring the policy itself. Okay, all of them are fair. Yep. So that was correct. Again, as I said, that it was an event G issue, so it should show up with the interface over here. So once it shows up with the interface, so that should be all good. But anyhow, you can see that all the policies and all the parameters have been pushed. So let me try one more time. So let me go back to the templates, gig 0/0. Click on edit. Yep, that's the one. Click on update. Let me try to push one more time the configuration, the same configuration. Yep. So definitely it's not showing up over here, but it should be showing that interface over here. All right. So I don't think so anything we are missing on that policy. Yep, that's all for now. So once that has been implemented, now it will match the traffic locally and it will check the allocate the bandwidth respectively. So this will be helpful, the quality of service, when the bandwidth is been over subscription or it is the bandwidth is very busy. At that time we can prioritize the traffic. So I hope this was informative for you and thank you.